Yo, 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 welcome everybody. It's another DFS Chalk Talk special. We got on man Joe over here. We're going to be talking about the draft. It's been a crazy one, and we're going to be live here in about 30 seconds. So stay tuned. Man, sometimes things just hit different. And that's one of those things right there where I'm just like, oh, man, because that's the sound of us coming back. That's the sound of the football season, right? We're at the beginning of the dynasty draft season. Draft is just about over, at least the important parts of the draft, right? Like the parts we're going to care about because we don't really, you care about the full draft, but those first few rounds, those are the ones that are really impactful, usually for your fantasy teams. We're getting pretty excited. On my left, we got my man Joe. Joe, how are we doing this evening? Not this morning. Goodness sakes.
It is good to be back. It's when you hit the Super Bowl week, you don't realize that it might be a couple months before you get to kind of come back and do this all over again. So it's been nice to get the juices flowing with the draft here. Looking at the Baltimore Raven draft room right now as they're about to make their third round pick, or just did make their third round pick, and it's been crazy, but not as predicted, which is almost even better in a way. Those first few picks dropped like flies without trades, but now it feels like every other second round pick has got a trade attached to it.
Yeah, no, there's been some wild moves. There's been a lot of cool trades, especially this evening. But there really hasn't been like that. It's kind of been pretty textbook. There's been a lot of predictions that kind of went along this line, but then there's been a few shockers, and we're going to talk about that. We'll go ahead and actually just go ahead and get this started. I tweeted this morning, imagine waking up today with Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Adzune, like you got DeAndre Swift, you got Khalil Herbert, you got Cole Kmet, you got Gerald Everett. Like, how loaded is Caleb Williams, and how good are the Bears going to be? I mean, it's all up to him, right? What do you think about that first pick?
I mean, I'm pumped for the Bears. I am pumped for the Bears. And I like Justin Fields. To be completely honest, if the Bears traded this pick 3 months ago and went with Fields and got a shit ton of picks for this pick, that wouldn't have bothered me either. But those top three wideouts, to go with Swift, to go with Kmet, I know they had some offensive line issues. That's a work in progress, but it seems to have improved throughout the season. If Caleb Williams, obviously he's going to have some growing pains as a rookie, but as a serviceable rookie with that's going to be phenomenal to watch. It's going to be a great watch. And, Chicago is one of the classic football cities. And it's an interesting time for that division right now. Obviously, you have Jordan Love and Jonathan Goff and Jared Goff, who are kind of leading it for Detroit and Green Bay at the top there. Minnesota's transitioning now without Kirk Cousins. And now
Atlanta.
Yes. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. But so the whole division, it's a really interesting time for that division. But I'm psyched to see what the Bears do on offense. I really am.
Yeah, this is one offense I'm very excited to watch. I think that they're going to be something to behold. They had a decent line. Their defense isn't a slouch. I mean, these guys they may have just gone competitive overnight, with that one move right there. Although, I mean, like it was to me, I'm kind of with you. I feel like if they'd have just gone with Justin Fields, it might have been to their benefit. They might have had, having a little bit more experience in the NFL. I mean, this kid could go in there and get scared and not play well. I mean, it does happen. He could be unprepared. We got Jaden Daniels going into Washington next. That was the second pick. I kind of expected this as well. What did you think on this one? Do you think he's going to fit in there? Do you think it's going to be a good opportunity for him? I think Caleb Williams absolutely hammers the opportunity, but this guy still has, you got Terry McLaurin. You got a decent running game coming out of there. What do you think of this offense right now?
You do. It's been interesting because they've gotten production out of like Heineke. What was his name? Taylor Heineke. Yep. And then obviously you got some legit, like at least fantasy wise, certainly production out of Howell. Neither of those guys proved to be the quarterback of the future for them. So is it Daniels now? I don't know. I don't know. I know people are very high on Daniels, obviously, even as JJ McCarthy and May and Penix, all these guys got hot through the combine, and as the draft got closer, nobody really wavered on Daniels going two. So I think people are high on him. I don't know. It's just been so long since a QB has really worked out in Washington. I mean, you would call it Kirk Cousins was the last one, and that translated into 0 playoff wins. So it's almost like the Jets now, right? Like even with Aaron Rodgers, like you just got to see real production to believe it out of Washington. But Mel Kiper would tell you they did okay. What do you think?
I think this guy's definitely lower on my draft targets because of the fact that he's playing in Washington. You give it a few years, yes, he'll probably be able to adapt, but I feel like this kind of an opportunity going into it. And oh my God, there went Joe. I feel like this opportunity going into it, you're going to be looking at a few different things there as far as what you have. Like, so you've got Terry McLaurin, yes, but I mean, you also have a pretty poor offensive line. You've got a few different things. Okay, here's our guy right there. And you've got, whatever happened. It wouldn't be the first show of the season if we didn't have a technical difficulty, Joe. So I'm glad you got that out of the way. But like I was saying, it's just I don't like waiting for transitional teams. I don't like waiting for that, and I definitely don't like having a quarterback for that. I don't mind it maybe for a super flex in this instance, but I'm definitely not going to target this guy hard unless even if I really need a quarterback, I may try to go for, like, say, Drake May. Well, to me, Drake May, the next pick that we're going to be talking about, for the Patriots, it's almost like the same situation there. You have very limited weapons. You have a decent defense, but the defense is only going to carry you so far. To me, the comparison that I think we can make here, or the comparison that I feel most comfortable with, is the fact that, like if you look at CJ Stroud versus Bryce Young last year, right? Like, so CJ Stroud went out there and he completely excelled. And whereas Bryce Young didn't do very well, and it was just sheerly weapon set, right? Like just sheerly weapon set. Did we completely disconnect here? You back, Joe?
Yeah, I don't know why I keep dropping. I'm really
I apologize if you guys just all sat there staring at me on a locked screen right there. I've got a locked screen on my end of things, so I just popped it back. So I apologize for the long stall there. My bad, everybody.
No, that's all right. And my internet's dropping out. If that happens again, I don't want to screw you over again. I think if I drop again, I don't think I'm going to go back on because I don't want to keep on chopping you up either.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries at all. Yeah, we'll just move through a lot of these. Like, so we got Marvin Harrison. He's going to be awesome. I think that said a big statement for Kyler Murray, that he's going to be their guy going forward. So I think seeing him paired up with Kyler Murray ought to be pretty awesome. So pretty excited about that. Malik Neighbors going over there. That's also going to be, like you said earlier, a no-brainer. I think that's going to be a great one. What do you think about Michael Penix Jr. going to the Falcons?
I do like what they're doing. I like what they're thinking. It doesn't shock me that it ruffled the Kirk Cousins feathers a little bit there, especially because it doesn't sound like you knew about it until they were literally on the clock. I would ask you this question. Get rid of the first three quarterbacks, Daniels, May, and Caleb. Which quarterback after that top three are you most, if you had to bet on one of the next, one more being successful in the NFL, which one would it be?
I like JJ McCarthy out of those three. You know, JJ McCarthy, I did like Michael Penix Jr. I thought he was very good for Washington. As far as how skills translate to the NFL, I feel like I saw more out of JJ McCarthy, and I actually feel like I saw a little bit more out of Bo Nix as well. But out of those three, I feel like I ranked them JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, and then Michael Penix.
Did you think the Giants should have taken McCarthy there, or do you think they made the right move with Neighbors?
You know, I feel like McCarthy would have probably been a better run for them. Like I said, I mean, we were talking about Daniel Jones before the show, and I like Daniel Jones. I think he's actually a decent quarterback, fantasy wise. But I think if you're looking for a long term winning solution, I don't think Daniel Jones is your guy. Like as far as an NFL quarterback, so I feel like I feel like I might have gone. I feel like I maybe would have pushed for JJ McCarthy there, and maybe had a changing of the guard, but. You know, it would have been kind of like the same situation that you'd have been throwing Drake May or Jaden Daniels into, where you just don't have a whole lot of weapons there. So, I mean, it's kind of like one of those two-edged swords.
Yeah, they need everything. So you're absolutely right about that. You know, I really like the Patriots. You know, the one thing about the Drake May situation in New England is having Jacoby Brissett. Like, I as a Giant fan, like that's a nice bridge. If you're going to make the change away from Daniel Jones, and that's going to be a rookie, to have a veteran like Brissett, or the Giants had Tyrod Taylor, obviously, that can actually win you some games, is willing to teach the rookie, like that feels like potential for success in New England now more than maybe it did for Mac Jones.
Yeah, you know, and I mean, but like I said, I mean, when you have, to me, they just don't have a whole lot of weapons there. You know, I mean,
they've got worse than the Giants. You're right.
Right. And I mean, like I said, and the Giants are like, I mean, losing Saquon Barkley, to me, that's going to be a big deal. Like, that's going to be one of those things that they're probably going to look back and regret towards the end of the season.
For Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, to a rival. Like, I mean, that's even worse. And I mean, but he's going to be, I'm excited to see that, though.
Me too. You're right.
But I mean, but I also, like I said, I think I like Bo Nix more than I like Michael Penix Jr. as well. I think the Broncos is kind of funny. I was watching a thing earlier where Sean Payton was talking about how he tricked everybody, and he was going to try to, or he got the Vikings to pull up and get McCarthy ahead of him. And where I feel like they probably should have maybe pushed up to try to get McCarthy. I think that'd have probably been in their better interest right there. And as far as, but I don't mind Bo Nix either. I think, like I said, I feel like he's NFL ready. I feel like that's one thing that he brings to the table that a lot of these quarterbacks really don't have under their belt yet. I feel like Bo Nix is one of those guys who's NFL ready. I just don't.
What do you do if you're Denver there, Mikey?
What's that?
What do you do if you're Denver there? I mean, because it's not like you're talking about a legitimate quarterback on that roster. You're talking about Jake Stidham, and you're talking about Zach Wilson now. You think Bo Nix is the week one starter?
How dare you say that Zach Wilson is not formidable, my man? Like, he's the future of Denver.
You're right.
I'll have you know. No, I'm just kidding. No, like right now, I think it is probably going to be Zach Wilson's job to lose, unfortunately. But I think Bo Nix I think that's going to be a job he can easily go in there and steal. But I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see Bo Nix before week 4, week 5, somewhere in there. I do feel like they're going to probably start the helm with Zach Wilson, but I feel like that's going to be a mistake.
All right, let's keep this going, Mikey, because you're frozen as a statue from a face perspective, but the audio's still okay.
That's good. Okay, that's all we need right there. As long as we're getting across to people. Yeah, I apologize. I'm not too sure what's going on here, but we're gonna be getting to the bottom of it before because like I said, this is kind of one of the first times in this new area as well for me. The next one up there I really want to talk about is I really don't even know how to say this. I don't know what to say. But what the hell is wrong with you, NFL? You let the Chiefs draft Xavier Worthy. Are they not winning enough Super Bowls for you guys? Do you want them to win for the next 10 years? What is going on here? What did you think about that draft pick? Because that's going to be kind of, I feel like their new Tyreek Hill toy. What do you think about Xavier Worthy?
Well, a couple of things. It made more sense when I didn't realize that Andy Reid and is it the Buffalo general manager are really good friends, or maybe it's the coach, one or the other. So that made a little more sense. But the follow-up question I have to that trade is, How do you feel about Keon Coleman? Because basically the Bills said, you know what? We're comfortable moving down 4 spots and taking Coleman over Worthy, despite Worthy breaking the record from a speed perspective. So in my mind, it's like, is Coleman that good, or was this a miss by Buffalo?
I think it's a different, so I think you're talking about way two different receivers when you're talking about Cole and Worthy. To me, Cole is like that big physical, gonna go win contested catches, kind of like your Calvin Johnson style receiver.
6'3",
Where I feel
220.
like Xavier Worthy's more your Tyreek Hill. He's gonna burn you down the field. I think that really almost to me, and I said this to one of our buddies on Twitter as well. I think that really speaks volumes for how they feel about Khalil Shakir. I feel like that's one thing that they're really going to be focusing on next year. I think that he showed a lot during last season and during the playoffs, where he's got himself probably solidified as that number one role, even by default, because you lost Diggs and you lost Gabe Davis. Yeah. So I think Keon Cole kind of fits in more of that Diggs role, and I think you're going to see Shakir be the guy that goes down there and burns people. And then don't forget you got Kincaid still and Dawson Knox. So, I mean, they still have quite a few weapons there in Buffalo without the locker room distraction that Diggs brought. But I still feel like Xavier Worthy, I don't mind that the Bills didn't get him. I just really mind that the Chiefs got him.
Yeah. And Rice came out this year. So it's not like they really have 0 wide receivers like they did at the beginning of the year. You're now talking Worthy to go with Rice, to go with Kelsey, the running game. I mean, this is what a dynasty does. They hit on all cylinders for that 5 to 10 year period.
Well, like I said, I mean, were you guys were they winning too many Super Bowls for you? Did you want them let's see how long we can make this last. Let's give Patrick Mahomes speed weapons, exactly what he needs to really succeed. So, I mean, yeah, I think this with Rashee Rice, barring that he gets through all his stuff, his legal troubles and things like that, unscathed. But it looks like he'll probably be seeing a few games on the sidelines. Ricky Purcell, that's another guy that I really like. I thought that I liked him a lot before the draft. I think that San Francisco getting him where they got him, it might have been the steal of the draft. What do you think about Ricky Purcell out of Florida?
San Francisco they know they get value, whether it's at the top, whether it's at the bottom. He's 6'1", 189. I think the 49ers are making what I think. I got excited about this draft pick, because to me, this tells me that there's got to be a pretty good chance that you would assume it's Ayuk, even though there's been some weird Debo rumors out there. But it feels like one of the top 2 are getting moved, right, if they're making this pick here.
And every sign leans towards Ayuk to me. I think I've seen a lot of people pointing towards Ayuk. I've seen a lot of things saying Ayuk is going to be getting out of there. I'm not too sure exactly how legitimate those are or what, but it does seem like they may be moving on from that. Or, that's going to also bolster that position if they keep him in.
It's got to be hard to pay Ayuk, Debo, McCaffrey, and Kittle.
Yeah, that can't be cheap. And then you also got a quarterback you got to worry about as well. So
what'd you think of so obviously the Patriots and Drake May, but then they came back at 37 and took Jalen Polk from Washington. What'd you think about that?
I thought that was a good move. I think that the Patriots are actually looking pretty decent as far as the draft grade goes so far. I think that's a team that's hurting so bad, though, that it's really going to be kind of hard to rebound from just with one draft. I think they're going to have to do some rebuilding, because I feel like they did a lot of damage in their quarterback department, right? I feel like that's one that they really, really kind of suffered in over the offseason. But yeah, no, I like him. I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be a good fit there, especially with the new quarterback with Drake May. But yeah, it's one team I really don't expect a lot out of the beginning, for sure.
I agree. So real time update real quick. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mikey, but I believe at pick 66, we just had the first running back go, Trey Benson of Florida State, to the Cardinals.
I believe there was a running back that went before that. Hold on. I think there was one. I thought there was a first round running back.
You could be right. No, there was a second round running back, Jonathan Brooks from Texas.
There you go. Yeah, I knew Brooks went. I was shocked that Corum hasn't gone yet, but
it's just so interesting. I mean, you can't make heads or tails out of the running back position and the value. They're not, nobody got paid last year. Then all of a sudden this year, guys kind of did get paid and did get the longer term deals. But then you didn't have any first round running backs. You only had one second round running back. That is just like one bizarro position right now in the way it's being evaluated and compensated.
Yeah, no, it is wild. I mean, because I think that they're starting to find out that they're a dime a dozen, but they're not. You know what I mean? It's like, because you can get a guy that can go in there and do that job, right? It's almost like anything. You got a guy that can go in there and slot in and do good, but it's really hard to find somebody that can slot in there and do great.
Yep.
You know,
or do it long term.
Right. Exactly. What about Xavier Legette? Did you like him out of South Carolina? He's a Panther now. That was kind of the last pick last night.
Oh, you're gonna have to educate me on that one, Mikey.
He's a big dude. I think Bryce Young has a bigger target now. I think that's going to be one of the things that kind of helps that team lean towards in the right direction. Again, this is the reason I really don't like picks 2 and 3 in this draft, is because you got teams that are going to have to do things like this. They're going to have to take those long hauls to get good. You know, I mean, like, yes, this guy's talented. Yes, he's fast. Yes, he's big. Bryce Young is talented. He can get the ball down the field, and he can get the ball down the field well. It's just that you don't have all the other pieces, right? Because you're going to have to do it quick. You don't have a good offensive line, and you're probably not going to be on the field too often because you don't have a running game, any semblance of a running game. So, I mean, you got all these like little pieces to put together, but these are pieces that they're putting together that are putting together well.
It was really hard to evaluate Bryce Young last year. Like, him and Adam Thielen kind of had a good thing going the first half of the year, but it kind of tailed off, didn't translate into a lot of points. Legette, I'm reading about him right now. He's 221 and ran a 4.39. So obviously he's a weapon. We just mentioned that they drafted the running back in the second round. So they're trying to beef up the weapons, obviously, around Bryce Young. It feels like they're just doomed for the next few years, though. I mean, even if Bryce Young ends up being a successful quarterback, to your point, at the other positions, they're still a couple of years away.
Right. We had Ladd McConkey going second tonight. He was the 34th pick going down for the Chargers. The Chargers, what do you think about the Chargers draft so far?
Well, I was going to ask you about them taking the offensive lineman at 5, and I heard Harbaugh talk about it too, but what did you think about them going that route at 5?
Getting Gus Edwards and gosh dang it, who was the other guy they picked up? The other running back from there. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Dobbins, right?
Yeah, there you go, J.K. Dobbins. Yeah, they picked up J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So I guess I can see why you'd maybe want to bolster that line. You've got Justin Herbert there. But then, I feel like they probably need to start, like, I guess grabbing a wide receiver here makes a lot of sense. But yeah, the offensive lineman, but I mean, he's a fantastic offensive lineman. The guy's a tank. He's a beast. And he looked really good. I mean, you look at his film, man, the guy can really move some people around. So I don't mind that pick. But man, it really shocks me on a team that moved Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Austin Eckler in the offseason. Didn't focus on a skill position first. That was kind of a weird one too.
And they had them all at their disposal there. Well, they could have taken Neighbors. You're right. You're absolutely right. I'm looking, McConkey's another guy who ran a 4.39. I mean, dude, if you're not running a 4.4, it's almost like, it's crazy.
Well, it's crazy how many offensive threats have been drafted this year. I mean, this is by a bunch, the most offensive draft I can remember. It may be the biggest one on record. I haven't had a chance to look yet, but it feels that way for sure. It feels like there's never been this many offensive key pieces drafted in the first round. So that's one thing that's getting really cool about that. I mean, it seems like they're still just kind of banging that drum. The one thing, like I said, I think I disagree with a lot of people out there. I think that the Penix Jr. grab was good. I think that Kirk Cousins is fantastic, but I think backing him up with some rookie talent is very wise. Look at what happened to the Jets last year. Oh, yeah. You brought in that veteran. He gave you 4 plays? And then you got to sit there on the sidelines and watch nothing happen. This guy at least adds another dynamic if something happens to Kirk Cousins, who is, kind of old. But I mean, he's going to have.
And he's coming off an ACL, to your point.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, so So, I mean, like you're going to have Penix Jr. coming in, and he's going to get to learn from one of the better quarterbacks in the game, as far as at least recency. And I don't know. I think it's going to be a good situation. I think the Falcons also, man, if you look at the rest of their team, you got Drake London, you got Kyle Pitts, you got Bijan Robinson. I mean, you don't really have to dip too many different places. You've got a defense that needs some help. You got an offensive line that needs some help. I feel like maybe that would have been a better move, and maybe grab a different quarterback on your second pick. But, like I also, you don't get generational talent every day. And I think Penix Jr. can be one of those guys that can solidify your future. I mean, at the very least, bring you a lot of trade capital. So let's see if I think that's going to be about it for what we have. Because, man, we have the rest of them. Like, and I'm sorry, I don't know anything about like too much defense or anything like that. I know there's been a lot
I'm looking like it's interesting to me just because like all of a sudden picks 40 through 43, 4 in a row were all cornerbacks. Like the second round, to your point, first round was so offensive. Second round got much more defensive. Lots of cornerbacks, here's an interesting one. And again, I'm with you. I can't analyze these players, and I'm not going to lie and say that I can. But it's all, as much as you talk about wide receivers and pass rushers, I'm looking at multiple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 7 defensive tackles in the second round. With over 5 cornerbacks. So interesting how the second round kind of shifted.
Yeah, and I mean, because all the offensive players were off the board.
That's true.
This like I think I saw somebody tweet last night. This draft feels like a home league draft, and it really did. It felt like they were just tagging offensive players, and I mean, you'd have a center, you'd have a tackle, you'd have the occasional edge guy, but it was mostly all wide receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs. It was going crazy, The other one that I do want to talk about before we go ahead and leave, and we're going to go ahead and start getting into our dynasty content, guys, starting next week. So make sure you stay tuned, staying with us here at Triple Play. Just throwing that out there really quick while I was thinking about it, because I know that I'll probably forget. But what about the Raiders pick, man? The Raiders drafting Bowers. Like, what did you think about that? Like, dude, now, so I was just getting ready to go on a tirade for Michael Mayer. Like, I'm like, dude, this guy is going to be awesome. He's got the skills. He's got the quarterback love. And then they draft around him, Brock Bowers out of Georgia. What did you think about that one?
It was funny too, because it felt like Bowers to the Jets had heated up a little bit prior to the draft. Hadn't heard much about the Raiders. Mayer did come along as the season progressed last year. You got to believe they're going to play, because they obviously have Devonta Adams, but they've had a hard time with their number 2 wide receiver spot. So you got to believe now that they're going to have a lot of funky formations where you're going to have the running back in the backfield, obviously, but then you're going to have, Adams with both Mayer and Bowers split out to go with whoever that number 2 wideout is. Leave it to the Raiders. You know what I mean? This is a typical Raider move.
This season.
What did you say?
I said they got Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers was ripping it up this season.
It is Jacoby Myers. You're right.
Yeah,
so that's legit.
Ripping it up all season long.
You're absolutely right. You're right about that. I'm wrong about that. I forgot about Jacoby. I was thinking of like Hollins. I skipped over Myers. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, no. So I mean, I feel like they should have bolstered something else. I mean,
who's their running back now, Mike? Because they lost Jacobs, right?
Yeah, they got Zamir White, I believe, is their running back 1 now, which is serviceable, man. Zamir White looked really good in Josh Jacobs' absence last year. He was popping out of that box. He was looking really good. So I feel like
too.
What's that?
He was a workhorse too.
Yeah, he was getting it done. Yep, and Aiden O'Connell was looking really good. I think that team actually should have probably gone. That defense is still pretty stout too. So maybe that was a good move. But man, I guess if you're going to look at 2 TE sets, that would be the only thing that makes sense to me. Because
let me pick your brain one more time, because you know more. So I'm thinking about Kyle Pitts and I'm thinking about Kincaid. So Pitts, I mean, I don't remember the last time we were so excited about a tight end coming into the draft as we were Pitts. And, he's been, I think to this point, a disappointment. I guess you hope with Kirk Cousins that changes now. Then you have Kincaid, who comes into an offense that's extremely mature, has a ton of weapons ahead of him. And by the end of the season, they feel good enough about him that they could get rid of Stephon Diggs. Now you have Bowers coming in. Where do you think? How do you feel he'll track?
I think probably somewhere in the lower echelon of that. Like I said, I feel like Meyer has probably got like that target confidence, but I mean, this Bowers is in there. He's not really even that good of a tight end, in my opinion. I mean, as far as size goes, the guy can't be out there to block a whole awful lot. I wouldn't assume, anyways, with his frame. At the NFL level, I don't see that guy hitting the field a lot, except for passing plays. Whereas I could see Mayer being out there for, I mean, like, so that gets you your audibles, that gets you anytime that you're calling out of the original offensive plan. So I don't really see him being as relevant as like, so I think Kincaid is going to take a huge leap forward this next year, especially with no Diggs, with Shakir being the wide receiver one and waiting so late to draft a wide receiver that the Bills did. I think that he's going to be highly utilized right there.
100
I
plus
really
targets,
like
I would
it a lot.
imagine.
And I do. I mean, like, it sucks because, man, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it for like the 5th time, and I've been wrong the other 4 times with it. I'm really excited about Kyle Pitts this year. I really think that Kyle Pitts is actually going to, I mean, the guy's still young. He's still like 23, 24 years old. He's amazing, too. I mean, the guy's got athletic skills off the charts. And now he has Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. Maybe it might be Michael Penix Jr. You never know. We're going to have a competition before the season starts, I'm thinking. But
it's making me wonder where Drake London will be on draft boards this year, because he came on pretty hard in the second half, and now he's going to have Cousins.
Yeah, no, that's going to be another guy that steps up, and I think Bijan Robinson even gets a huge up. I think this whole offense, I think that's going to be another Chicago-style offense, man. They've got a lot of good weapons. They ought to be a hell of a football team. So, well, with that, my man, do you have anything else to add for this week's On the Draft?
I'm happy to be back, my friend. It's been fun watching the draft, and I can't wait to dive into the dynasty stuff. You know, we're in May. It's not that crazy. In 2 months, you're going to start mock drafting. So let's do it.
That's it, man. That's it. And a lot of you are getting in that Scott Fish mode and stuff like that. So make sure you're mocking on those. Thank you, everybody, and you have yourself a good evening. And we will see you guys next week. Make sure you're following, subscribing, doing all that fun stuff. And again, we'll see you.